Yo, what up gang? It's Blue Moon, finally bringing you guys the huge cosplay video I was promising. Half of these cosplays are just from Dark Souls, so I'm going to start with those. You have right now the timestamps for all of the cosplays I've done, and in the description as well if you want to fast forward to the exact cosplay you want to see. I'll be putting pictures on the screen to certain outfits that you might not recognize. And I'll just talk about which ones I feel like could get some changes and whatnot. And I won't be really talking about how viable the builds are because it's literally just for cosplay. So let's go. Alright, starting off with the Black Iron Knight from Dark Souls 1. The only big problem with this build really is the fact of the shoulders having these balls, even though he doesn't have balls. The helmet that doesn't exist in the game. This helmet is the closest that I could get to, although it looks pretty stupid. It looks like a mouse, but that's the closest I could get. And also the skirt. There aren't that many skirts in the game. I hope the devs introduce more skirts because we don't have any cloth skirts, and well, the set uses a cloth, so yeah, there's a problem there. I'm also showing at the same time the steel set, because the steel set you can kind of get a close look of it in the game, and I feel like I don't really have to make a video about an actual cosplay about it. Basically, you just switch the Elizabethan cuirass. Obviously, you don't want to have this pattern. It's just for my looks. You would go for the Maximilian cuirass, and the helmet. I feel like the best one is this one, the Bourgogne Noble Fée. I feel like that one is the one that looks the closest. Alright, moving on to the Winged Knight. This is actually pretty close. I feel like this is actually very good and looks very much like the Winged Knight from Dark Souls 3. Obvious problems really are the helmet. You know, we don't have a helmet that looks like theirs. Theirs is like a smiley emoji, and also the shoulders, they don't have cloth like he does. He also doesn't have a tabard on top of the chest, which is, you know, is a thing on that on the Winged Knight. But this is the closest I could get to. As for the leggings, I feel like the Brigandine Greaves work pretty well because they have cloth and then they have protected parts for the lower legs and knees. You could but the problem really is the shoes then, because you cannot get metal shoes. I wish I could use the crude chausses and then use the crude feet, but then I couldn't use the barbiche, which is their weapon of choice. Moving on to the next cosplay, which is also from Dark Souls 3. This is a Consumed King Knight. The only problem with this build really is the fact that the shield, you cannot get a big rectangular shield, so straight away there's a huge issue there. Also the helmet, you can't really get a helmet that looks exactly like theirs, but I feel like this one looks pretty close. And also you cannot wear these shoulders, the basic round shoulders, which is pretty much what they use. They use a round shoulder and then use a mantle on top like they use, or a coif. You can't use the coif because you're using the Flat Templar helmet, which is the one that you look the closest to. So I feel like the gambits and color does the job well. And then for the torso, I feel like the Hussar works best because it has all these lines like they do. I feel like that works good. And also for the mace, I bought this one, the Morningstar head, but I think they use this one, the fringe head. I had the Morningstar already purchased. I wasn't going to buy the fringe head, so I'm pretty proud of this cosplay. Alright, moving on to a really epic and cool looking cosplay, which is the Fallen Knight. Now, obviously, he looks kind of trashy in this game because there's no cloaks in the game. There's no big coats or cloaks or capes, so you can't really get the exact look. This is the closest I could get to, so I went with the Wanderer's Scarf and then with the Gamins tight sleeve to get this sort of robe kind of look, and then obviously the hood because I use a hood, and I think the Bourgogne Buffet looks the best because it has this singular line for the eyes like he does. And I went with the long skirt covered back because the cape or the cloak only protects the back and the front is showing. I feel like the Wanderer's pants look the best because it kind of gets the same look, but I think the baggy pants also work. I mean, just the pants, because they have all these laces around. But I feel like the Wanderer's pants look better. They look more rusty. It's not rusty, but you get it. And as for the feet, I feel like the Foot Soldier boots look the best, but you could also go for these ones, the laced boots, or the fur boots, because the fur boots have all these bandages like they do, like the Fallen Knight has, but I feel like the foot soldier boot looks the best. Buying this pieces, the Baragard blade and the cat leg grip, you can get this green look with a curved blade. I feel like that works pretty good. And the torso, going with the Elizabethan with the bronze trimming, I feel like it looks pretty good. It looks pretty close to what the Fallen Knight looks like. The Elite Knight, obvious problem is the shield. You cannot get a shield looking as fresh and as epic as a Elite Knight because there aren't engravings like that in the game. Also the gloves, you cannot get a leather glove and a steel glove or a metal glove like in Dark Souls, so another problem there. As for everything else, I feel like it's a pretty close cosplay. It looks pretty close to what he looks like. I'm really proud of it. You know, when it comes to the torso, he kind of uses a really cool coat or jacket or whatever the hell that is, and it looks a lot cooler than on this one. There aren't that many cool coats. I mean, you have the chainmail coat, and that's about it. All the other coats don't look as cool, and you cannot color them like this. You could kind of get away with it with the Gambitson coat, I think, but it's expensive and it's level 1 armor. Moving on to the next cosplay, which is Lord Gwyn. I feel like this one actually looks very nice, the face. I don't know how Lord Gwyn would look like if he wasn't hollowed, but going like this looks very damaged. I feel like it looks pretty close to what he would look like. You can't get a huge beard and a huge haircut like he has, and you cannot wear a crown, so you have the problem there. But I feel like the tunic with these colors, this one, the 8, and then this one, the 11, I feel like that looks pretty close to what it looks like. Going with the foot soldier boots because, you know, they look very well worn. And I have fireproof as one of the perks as a meme because, you know, he's Lord Gwyn. I'm moving on to the next very epic cosplay, which is Solaire. Obvious problem really is the shield. The devs have already finished the big Viking round shield. It's just about balancing. I think they have the textures and all that worked up. So expect there to be a big Viking round shield in the future, which would make it great for this exact cosplay, because going with a tar shield, although yes, it's a circular shield like Solaire, it's not like as epic as Solaire. Everything else, the obvious problem, you cannot get those shoulders that he has because he uses cloth shoulders or whatever. I went with the mantle, but I feel like you could also go with the Wanderer scarf. I feel like that actually looks pretty good too. I'm not too sure about the color though. Maybe this one or this one. Maybe I'll go with this one. He uses fur shoulders that could look like these. Where are they? These ones, the leather pads. You can color them green afterwards, which kind of looks like them. But I feel like maybe going with the Wanderer's scarf looks better. He uses a draped cuirass as his chest, but the cuirass that extends a little bit more down. You can't really make that in this game, so I went with a chainmail skirt just to add a little bit more protection to the crotch area, so he doesn't look like he's just wearing. As you can see, if I remove it, it looks kind of stupid. I don't really like it, so I went with the chainmail skirt. Obviously, you can't get those iron bracelets that he has. I hope that there's introduced bracelets in the game, so I can have a bracelet and not have my hands cut protected, to have more variety on non-hand related cosmetics. Moving on to the first Dark Souls 2 cosplay that I have, and I think it's the only one. You cannot get a chainmail with coats on top, so you can have a chainmail underneath a bunch of tabards and a cape and all that crap like he has. So I went with the draped cuirass, which is the campaigner's draped cuirass, which is all worn out, and then I went with the Wanderer scarf to even add more worn out cape look, and then the Wanderer skirt to also go with the whole worn out cape that the Heide Knights have. Maximum metal roughness because they don't really look shiny. They look very old and worn out. As for the legs, I feel like the crude chausses are the ones that look the best and look the closest to him. And then because I have steel feet, I brought the crude sabatons. I hate the fact that you cannot use the crude sabatons with pretty much anything else. Alright, moving back to Dark Souls 3 again. This is the Lothric Knight. Obvious problem really is the shield. You can't really get those super cool engravings on the shield. They have that problem. As for the emblem, I don't really know how to get an emblem that looks exactly like theirs, so I just went with Rest, because this clearly is a Dark Souls reference. The bonfire with the sword, this is clearly a Dark Souls reference, so I just went with it. As for the whole look, I went with this color, the 46, which you need level 55, but this looks like a very royal red, like the ones that, like the color that they use. If you don't have that, then go with maybe the 44, but I feel like that is just too bright for what they have, and I like this color a lot better. As for the helmet, I think the close harness looks pretty good. Not too sure if you can get a cooler looking one. I feel like this one looks pretty good with like this Mohawk. I don't know what to call this. I feel like that looks pretty close to what they have. And as for the weapon, you would probably use this guard, the slasher guard. I feel like that looks closer to what they use. And yeah, just very worn out capes, very worn out tabard on the draped cuirass and on the skirt, just to add that other worn out fashion that they have. I feel like that looks pretty close to him. Alright, moving back to Dark Souls 2. Apparently I have another cosplay from Dark Souls 2. I forgot about this one. So the Faraam Knight has the obvious problem of you cannot use shoulder pieces and then have pelt on top. So you cannot wear metal protection like they have. They have like the Knight pauldrons, the basic ones. And on top of that, he also has pelts. You cannot do this in this game. That's also the problem with the Fallen Knight. I forgot to mention it. You cannot wear a scarf and underneath that also wear a shoulder piece. I feel like that's kind of bad. I hope the devs make it so they can not only wear scarves and stuff like this and the cloth cover, and on top of that also wear shoulders. Maybe that has a lot of clipping. That's probably why they didn't do it, but I still hope they do it. Alright, next problem obviously is the helmet. You cannot get a helmet that looks like his because there's no helmet that looks like that, and that one looks super cool. I hope the devs introduce one that looks like that, not only just for me to make this cosplay, but also because those helmets look pretty cool. As for everything else, I feel like everything else is pretty realistic. On the bastard sword, you want to buy the fancy handle that looks exactly like the one he has, and for the guard, the slasher, I feel like that one looks pretty close to what he has. Again, problem with the shield, you cannot get those super cool engravings. I went with this collar, the 50. I feel like that one has the best resemblance of his collar. I finished the Dark Souls cosplays. Let's move out of that, and now I'm going to bring you 2 other For Honor cosplays that I didn't do it on my original cosplay for For Honor. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I made a lot of For Honor cosplays, so go check it out. It's really cool. The builds look very close to what the game looks like. So this is the Guardian, the Knight version. I didn't make the Viking version because it has very specific armor, and the helmet, I don't think I can make that in this game. So I made the Knight version. I feel like he looks pretty close. The only problem really is the fact that you cannot wear bandages on your arms. I hope the devs introduce that. Very low protected arms. You still have some sort of fashion on your arms, but you're not like fully covered. There's probably too much fantasy. That's why the devs didn't do them yet. Hopefully the devs introduce a little bit more fantasy related cosmetics in the future. And when it comes to the feet, again, the problem with the bandages. The only feet that have bandages is the fur boots. No one else has that many bandages, so I went with the fur boots. I feel it looks pretty close. And for the weapon, with the greatsword with the basic guard of the claymore, because he only uses a similar one. And I feel like the colors match pretty well, and I'm happy with this cosplay. It looks very close to him. Last and finishing For Honor cosplay, I think I could make Tiandi with the Messer. I didn't try it. Alright, moving on to Shao Lin from For Honor as well. I feel like the face looks nothing like Shao Lin, but I just went with it anyway. I feel like the worker's vest looks the best. You could also go with the cloth vest, but I feel like this one looks a lot more like Shao Lin. As for the legs, I mean, maybe not even this color, maybe like this one. Yeah, this one looks very much like Shao Lin, this color. As for the bracers that he has, he uses bracers, but you cannot make the bracers have no hands, like protection, so you have to use the worker's gloves, so you have no finger gloves. So yeah, it kind of looks bad in a way, but that's the only way you can get bracers without gloves. Again, I hope the devs just make arm pieces that don't use gloves, so you can have more versatility on your fashion. I feel like the Hunter's Hosen look pretty good because he also uses some sort of bracers in the lower part of the leg. I feel like the Hunter's Hosen do the job very well. And then Talisman shoes because it looks super fucking cute. Alright, let's move on to Ezio. And the obvious problems with Ezio are probably his face. I feel like this looks very much like Ezio. I'm not too sure what you guys might think, but I like the way that he looks on the face. As for the skirt. I went with the long skirt divided for the waist. It kind of looks like what he has, but you can't really get the same exact look as his. It looks pretty close this way. As for the chest, I feel like this one looks the best. The double padded. The worker's hood looks pretty good for the hood. Mantle just for that extra look of a cloak that you can't really get, but he has a cloak. This one has a small cloak. I went with the Lanchesson arms to look more fluffy, but you could also use the Gamison tight sleeve. I think that one looks more realistic to the cosplay. I just like these better. And then with the worker's glove, because you can't really get those metal looking gloves. You can go for these, the Gothic, but then you do have your fingers protected. He doesn't have gloves protecting his fingers. So I just went with this one. I think it looks pretty good. As for the legs, I feel like these legs look pretty good with this very dark brown. Looks very much like him. Alright, moving on to Robin Hood, and this is not the character from the Disney cartoon. This is the Robin Hood you would imagine like from reality. I think I got inspired on an adult costume to make this, and I feel like this is the closest I could get to. The only thing that could change is maybe the traveler's foot. You would go for the rider's boots, but they look kind of bad, so I went with the traveler's boot, and I don't want to spend money on those boots. As for the face, I don't know, I kind of went with a random face. I didn't really care much about it. And I went with the axe, but that is not about a part of the cosplay. This is just because I was using the axe. I was trying out this build, and I needed a secondary. You probably want to go with a dagger to make the cosplay even better. Alright, back into fantasy. This is Peter Pan. Obvious problem is the cap. I bought the archer's cap and not the archer's cap feather. That is a huge mistake. That's a huge oopsie because he uses a feather. I didn't even know there was a difference there. Oh well, I'm not gonna waste another 800 gold on that. I feel like this is the closest I could get to him. Going with the linen hosen and the cloth vest. I feel like that looks very nice. It looks very much like him. And then as for the feet, I was torn between the chain boots yellow or with the foot soldier boots because he kind of uses these type of boots. But these are a little bit too big to the ones he uses, so I just went with the chain boots. It looks more simple. And obviously the dagger, I didn't buy any skins for it. It looks very much like his dagger anyway, so I just went with it. So yeah, this is Peter Pan. And moving on to my favorite cosplay out of all, which is Fred Flintstone. Obvious problem with this look is the fact that the worker shorts clip through the tunic. I don't know why the tunic forces you to wear legs anyway. And if you did go with pants, you can see there's not the clipping there, but I would be using pants. So yeah, that's kind of bad that you can't just get rid of this lace over here. But everything else, it looks very much like Fred Flintstone. Obviously, you'd get rid of these perks. I was actually using it in skirmishes because it actually is kind of okay build. And obviously, you would go ahead and use rocks for your secondary and your tertiary. Alright, moving on to the next, which is Bob the Builder. I feel like the archer's cap does the job pretty well. It looks very much like him. But maybe going with this one, the flat top works better, and just calling it all yellow. I feel like that looks more like a hard hat like the one he uses. But hey, archer's cap looks pretty good too. And for pants, I feel like these are the best pants because all the other pants just are colored too bright. So the color that looks the closest to it would be this one, the pants with this one, the 36. I feel like it looks pretty close. You can't really get the overall look because, you know, you can get a chest piece that looks like that with checkers underneath. But you could try to go with this one, the checkered Gambinson, but it would just look too much like you would just have too many checkers. He doesn't have checkers on top. So going with the leather armor looks better, I think. It looks more like a builder this way. Moving on to the next cosplay, which is, you've definitely seen this one, which is the Gnome. I made him have a huge nose like he has and I feel like that looks pretty much like Gnomed. Like the gnome from You've Been Gnomed Me. I like this one a lot. It looks so close to him. Moving on to the last cosplay I have. I didn't show you Mario, Luigi, a Spartan knight, or a Roman knight. I didn't show you any of those oversaturated or overdone cosplays because I'm pretty sure you guys would have already known. These are all the ones that I could get that are different. And let's talk about the last one, which is Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. For the body, I went full strength with a little bit of fat because he's kind of a big fella. The gloves, they do have these spikes. He doesn't have spikes, but it's the only gloves that you could color yellow like he has, and I feel like it is a perfect replica of him. Maybe the face, you want to change it. I feel this looks very good anyway, so I don't feel like I don't think I have to change much. That was all of my cosplays. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have suggestions for other cosplays that I could make, tell me in the comments, and I'll make sure to make some more if there is enough suggestions. So yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Remember, for on a cosplay video, go check that one out, and the meta discussion video for Frontline, I don't know if I've already uploaded it. If I did, go check it out. If I haven't, go check it out once it comes out. See you later guys.